welcome everyone to the Soul of the Everyman on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. Find them at artistfirst.com. Please send your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here they are, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, Z-Man. And I'm Michael Lyons.
Yes, and I'm Margaret.
And we know you've been waiting with bated breath all week long. We can feel your bated breath from here.
Yeah.
Smells like earthworms a little.
Oh, dear.
It's so hot that we're delirious, or I am.
Yes. Take a deep breath.
It's really hard to tell when I'm delirious. Have you ever heard, I'm going to digress for a moment, have you guys ever heard of a dry drunk? That's me.
A dry drunk?
Basically, I have very low impulse control.
Oh.
And, you know, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes.
All right.
No, this isn't one of those times, obviously.
All right, dear.
Yeah.
We're going to ground now.
We're going to ground. And we're going to engender or inculcate or otherwise bring in peace.
Well, the state of peace is something that, frankly, this world is could use a lot of right now. There's a lot of crazy going on.
There is.
And people just been super stressed just about on everything. I don't know of one thing where people are at ease.
And they're craving peace.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of, I would venture to observe that a lot of the lack of peace in people is because they're craving peace, but they are stressing over not being able to obtain peace, which is sort of one of those positive feedback loops.
Right.
I'm really, really nuts because I can't find peace. Like,
well,
yeah.
There's a lot of conflict going on right now, and it isn't. When people see the conflict, that's usually when they start getting very stressed and nervous, because they begin to wonder, well, how is this going to affect me?
Definitely. And also, I think a lot of it, the root of it is uncertainty.
Yes. Well, how is this going to affect me? There's no predictable way that you can see an outcome. And it's usually obvious that there is no way you can control this.
Yes, you can say that, but I think a lot of people also spend, or rather, the root cause of a lot of their unrest is that they do think they can control it. Or rather, they believe that they could somehow control it if they only had, and plug in the thing that they don't have. That becomes
power.
Well, power, it's money.
One of the main reasons why the craving for power is there.
Exactly.
They want to control the situations around them. And it is a normal kind of thing that happens. I mean, all you have to do is watch how a little one develops, and they're trying desperately to learn how to control themselves, their bodies, how to be able to reach out and coordinate their muscles in order to grab what they want or begin to walk or do what they see other people doing. And it's a normal impulse to be able to want to do what you see other people doing. it's just that that's normal when you are in that early phase of childhood. But as you grow up, you have to make more allowances for that relationship issue that humans have. You got to work with other people, which, let's face it, most people just want what they want.
That's where all bad ideas come from, by the way.
Other people.
Other
yes.
people. But let me back up a little bit, because I think where we started there is very it's going to strike a chord with most people that folks say to themselves, whether overtly or sort of it's sort of in the back of their head. If only I had, plug in the thing. You said power or money, which is almost the same thing, or authority, or just any type of
influence.
And there you go with social media influencers. If only I had X, Y, or Z, I would have peace. And the thing that they're looking for, what they're equating to peace, is, or rather, what they're believing that will result in peace, is really the ability to control and the ability to determine exactly what's going to happen. And you mentioned earlier the same thing is you want, instead of relationships, let's say with people, where you cooperate, perhaps, they want to order. They want to command.
Mm-hmm.
They want to decide for themselves and others without any, with the authority of a regent, or authority of a king, or the authority of a god, if you will. So your word is law, and nothing can touch you, and so therefore you are now the most powerful person in your sphere of influence, or whatever it is. And so they look to people like, I don't know, name your billionaire, zillionaire, trillionaire, whatever they are, and say, well, that person must have peace. Or name your authority figure, your king, your president, whatever, and that person must have peace. Or all these, they look at the folks who are, in essence, the influencers, looked up to actors, or who knows what, say, well, they must have peace. But in fact, if you kind of explore any of these people, you find that there are very few of them, you would say, are peaceful. They're driven. They're paranoid. They're constantly worried about their security. Right? They themselves, with these millions and billions of dollars, have layers and layers of private security, and people to push people away, and filters, and all the, and so you say to yourself, and at the center of this giant bubble of things, is that peace, or is it a constant struggle to quote unquote maintain yourself? To constantly defend, to be under at least to imagine that you're under assault. That your life is, I think a lot of famous people, you'll say to them, well, being famous was the worst thing that ever happened to me, because I felt I couldn't, I couldn't walk down the street as a free person. They themselves say, well, I want peace. I want anonymity. I want to be a nobody again. I want, so to be able to walk down the street and nobody knows who I am, or my who says anything to me, and they think that's peace. So it becomes the grass is always greener kind of scenario, and neither side is really on the pathway to what they're looking for, and so they're all under, every person who's believing that control or power or influence or anonymity is going to give them peace is in fact anything but peaceful.
Right. Well, most people think of peace as a lack of conflict.
Also true.
Or you're just feeling happy, so then you must be peaceful. And it's kind of interesting, because it depends on how someone interprets the word peace. Um, there is a state, believe it or not, where you can be surrounded by trouble, conflict, arguments, but you can be at peace. And it's not something that you can describe easily, but there is a state where you can be at peace in the midst of turmoil. And I guess in the Bible, Jesus says it's a peace that surpasses all understanding. But I have experienced it, where there's nothing but crazy going on, and everything you thought was supposed to happen or could happen to change the way things are going, and it doesn't, but you can still be at peace. And it sounds very contradictory. You're not happy that you are in turmoil, but you hold peace. And it's allowing for a broader viewpoint. In other words, when we were trying all different types of methods in which to help our son fight cancer, try to cure him. I mean, that's usually what you try to do, try to get rid of the disease. And they set up a game plan, the doctors. We're going to try this. We're looking at your diagnosis as X. These are your percentages of cure. And then they begin to present to you the different methods by which they can attempt this. And it's fascinating because it is a breakdown of how most doctors do that. But it would be so easy to be drawn into whether or not it worked or didn't. I don't even know how to.
Well, I think okay. So, in that situation, and there are many people who find themselves in that situation, your quest for peace is, just what you said. People will say, "Well, the doctors told me this. It's this percentage thing, and I have these chances, and it's 80% to do this and 20% to do that, and then we're going to do this treatment and that treatment." Well, all of that is exactly almost the same sort of thing. It's looking for reassurance. It's looking for control, and in that circumstance, particularly in that circumstance, you feel as though you're completely out of control. Most people's lives, they feel anyway that although they may be a little bit out of control, that they sort of have a handle on it. But in fact, when you're put into a situation like that, where you're given an existential threat of some sort, one type or another, all that's sort of ripped away. That veil is drawn aside, and you feel very isolated, and you're grasping for those types of reassurances because your peace has been disturbed. Your peace has been shattered to some extent. And the ego is tied up in that whole thing, too. Well, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was agreeing. Just that your original state, before the diagnosis, you thought you were just a normal human being, just a mother with children, just trying to get by, et cetera. It does not necessarily mean that you were at peace. You were just like managing everything. But when you're hit with a life-threatening situation, everything drops at that point. All those schedules that you had at the back of your head that you had to meet to maintain a household drop away because there's a life at stake. And you're responsible for that life. So you take it on as, okay, I've got to do something. And yes, you do. You wind up doing something. But the field of play that you happen to be on, you have to take stock of. In other words, how big is this? And it's way out of my hands. And frankly, if you're honest with yourself, you say, I can't control this. Now, there were plenty of parents that were in that state. You know, I can't do anything about it. I've got to find a way. I know the doctors will do it. There's no peace in that.
True. I mean, but so much kind of put together. But no, it's fine. So to kind of let me just come back to our sort of our premise is that, you know, in this, and that's part of that particular circumstance, the exigent circumstance. I really can't say that of an existential diagnosis like that, or kind of again rips away that veil, and you, as you just said, you can be brought to through that this realization that I don't have control. But you're kind of jumping way ahead, if you will, which is fine. I mean, the audience that we have here, they've probably heard me talk about this before. But the key or the common theme in all of these pieces is that people desire peace, and they conflate peace with control. And then there's many, many different types of control that they'll seek, you know, power or money and all the other things that go along with it, as well as, you know, some basically more, more preparatory type things. You know, a very common thing is people will say we have to arrange your life so that you have a certain amount of money coming in, and you have this budget, and you're saving for this, and you have these insurances and this. These plans in case of this, and you have my living will and all that. So you have all these things all set up, and they're all, again, these sort of bargains with reality, that if I do all these things and I do them right, that nothing like that is going to happen. So these exigent circumstances, you say to yourself, well, all I have to do is a different sort of, instead of just being the richest person in the world or the most powerful person, you say, well, at least what I can do is prepare for all these eventualities, and, you know, even if this happens, I have this insurance, and that'll help pay for it, and I have this, and that'll kick in, and I have my annuity and my 401k, and I have all these things. They're all, in essence, negotiations with reality to say, well, I've done all the things. You know, I've checked all these boxes, and I've prepared all this stuff, and I have all these things in all these files. And I've got the right doctors, and I've got the right investments, and so anything that happens, I'm ready. I'm a good Girl Scout, Boy Scout. I have come prepared for any eventuality. So then, as you just said, circumstance will come in, which will kind of blow that all away, and you find yourself completely bereft of peace. And then scrambling, looking for any type of reassurance, the doctors, the medicines. You may end up, and this happens through this process, you may end up coming to a point where you say, I don't have any control over this. And this is sort of the very beginning of the realization of what truly will begin to bring you peace. All the things that we've talked about up to this point are the egoic, I hesitate to say lies, but they're the egoic falsehoods of how you get peace. You know, all these.
Yeah, illusions.
Illusion. There, that's a great word. These are the egoic illusions of how you get peace. You prepare everything. You absolutely have 1,000% of every possible contingency. You're a doomsday prepper. You've got 5,000 cans of tuna fish. You're ready. And all the things that could possibly happen. You have lists, and you've got every contingency and 500 D-cell batteries in the basement and all this other stuff. The point is that you have invested a tremendous amount of time and ego and a tremendous amount of your identity in being prepared, or in being powerful, or in being rich, or whatever the thing, all the stuff that you thought would get there. And so there you are, the richest, most powerful, most well-prepared person in the world. And yet, something comes. Some circumstance happens. And you may say, well, all the things that I prepared for, this wasn't it, but I still, and you fight like mad, and you push, and you try, but yet none of it works. None of it actually, not only does it not bring you peace, but it doesn't take away the exigent circumstance that's robbing you of peace, that's threatening your ego. And when that happens, you have kind of two different paths you can go. You can fall into a basket, which we saw, as you mentioned, many people do, and look for any person to take, anything to take this away from you. Or you may come to the very beginning of this path, to the beginning of the path to actual peace, is you have to say to yourself, all that was sort of illusory. None of that was the solution to peace. I don't have any control. And that feels to the ego like giving up. It feels like I'm letting it all go. I don't have any control. Where am I? I'm lost. I have nothing in front of me. It's a void. I have no anchor points anymore. But that's it. That very scary, very unique point, that transition point, where you say to yourself, not only don't I have any control, but no one does.
Right.
And not only can I not prevent anything bad from happening, I can't prevent anything good from happening. I can't actually prevent anything from happening. All I can do is control one thing, and that's my response.
Mm-hmm.
My internal being, my ability to realize the moment of now, means that I don't try to control what will happen. I only kind of try to control how I respond to it. The Stoics had this as well. This was a very great wisdom that they said, the ability, the power of your persona. The Stoics were into the person. The power of your person was not in control, but in how you accepted things, how you reacted to things.
Yeah. Stoics were very great on using your ability to think to interrupt an emotional reaction. But you have to go past even that because you're more than what you're thinking. And believing that somehow your thoughts are going to manage your emotions is always an interesting...
Another form of illusion.
Right. You make it a war between your emotions and your thinking. And it's really a moot point because that assumption of, well, my emotions are going to dictate what I'm doing, or my thinking process is going to dominate my emotions, which is a lot of people, they do use that.
The phrase is control yourself.
Well, controlling yourself goes beyond your thoughts and your emotions. It's something outside of both of them. It's not using the process of what your mind's doing to dominate the emotions. That both of them are life streams within you. And you begin to become acquainted with them, but you don't necessarily give one more
credence.
Well, letting them drive, letting your emotions drive, letting your thoughts drive. Both of them go right over the edge, right over the
both
cliff.
of them are not actually looking at the true moment of now.
Well, they're not aware of
Exactly.
the field that you're actually operating on. And when I say that, I mean it's you as a consciousness within a field of interaction. And that means it could mean the world, it could mean the relationship that you will happen to be functioning in, or multiple relationships according to the situation. But that awareness allows you to take all of that into account, because everything has its place when you are in your awareness. It doesn't mean that your emotions are going to be comfortable, or your thoughts or your mind is going to be comfortable. Comfort has nothing to do with it.
Well, and in fact, the illusion of finding peace in thought, or the illusion of finding peace in your emotions, that somehow be just happiness and forever. Basically, your emotions will never trouble you, or your thoughts will always be able to answer you. Those are both also illusions.
Yes.
And we're kind of snipping around the edges, but perhaps we ought to bring our buddy Tolle into this, because we have a lovely quote. The actual things that you're doing in all of these circumstances, just to frame this a little bit, whether it's power or advice from others or preparations or all those things, is you're basically trying to do what cannot be done. You're trying to find peace as though it was an object. You're trying to buy peace as though it was for sale.
Right.
You're trying to create peace
as if peace comes from you.
As if peace comes from you. You're trying to possess peace as though you can keep it in a little lockbox underneath the desk and take some out once in a while and take a hit. Oh, peace. Got my hit of peace for the moment. I'm good.
Your hip flask of peace.
Well, and people do use drugs to try and find peace, but none of those things are true. And Tolle's quote is sort of seminal here, so maybe we ought to bring it in, because we've gone nearly a half an hour without mentioning it.
Okay.
But let's bring it in at this point, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how that really will begin to bring you peace.
Well, it's a step.
Would you like to essay Tolle?
Sure. You find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level. Tolle.
So what is he saying here? It sounds a little trite almost. Because, again, as we mentioned, peace is not something that you can pick up and hold in your hand, nor is it something that you can necessarily keep, as far as an object, nor can you buy it, nor can you prepare to have it all stored up in canopiary jars in your basement. No. However, and this is the interesting thing about it, peace, true peace beyond all measure, beyond all understanding, as Margaret quoted earlier, peace beyond all measure and understanding is yours at any instant, yours for the taking, never separated from who you actually are at the deepest level.
Well, yes.
We are beings of peace. And what I mean by that is that your truest nature, the being that is you, is an embodiment of peace and a conduit of joy, which has nothing to do, and this is the kind of thing that's hard for people to get to, but you do get to it, nothing to do with the circumstances of your life, of anything that's happening around you, no matter what is happening around you. That's the mystery of it, if you will, as it sounds like, well, how can I be peaceful if this is happening? Or how can I be joyful if this is happening? This is going to rob me of all peace and joy. And it will, in one sense, that's a true statement. It will if you let it. Because you have to give away your peace. You have to hide your peace.
Well, okay. That's treating peace as a thing?
Well,
it's not a thing.
You have to hide your beinghood, cover it in ego, spend your energy in illusion. You decide to suffer, even though people say, "No, how can I'm not deciding. I don't want it at all. I absolutely don't want this. Absolutely, the moment of now is something I don't want at all." You're deciding to suffer. You decide to have peace by realizing that it's inseparable from who you are, the being that is you. You can only hide it. You can only cover it.
Well, you have to make a choice that you will not be weighed down by confusion. Okay? Because confusion is what drives that turmoil. You don't know what's going on, and then all the thoughts start cascading. I should know. There must be a way to figure it out. And it just ripples all the way down until there is no space that is still within you. I think of peace as complete inner freedom. There's nothing that's going to be able to latch on to you, to draw you to other places. You are in complete freedom to choose the next step. How do I say this?
Well, how do you get there? If you say that to me, I say, well, how do you get there? How do you get to that freedom?
The inner freedom is allowing yourself the permission, first of all, to acknowledge first that you have been in all this confusion. Everything around you has been trying to draw your attention, trying to grab at your attention from all these different angles and levels. But your attention is yours. It doesn't belong to the things that are making noise. You decide where to place your attention. And when you realize that you decide where to place your eyes, you say, I do not choose confusion. I do not choose the turmoil. I choose
peace. Well, so let me just, if we back up a little bit from that, so if we go through it step by step, I would say something happens. We don't know what it is. And the confusion, what Margaret's talking about, the confusion, is that the ego rises up instantly. The emotions rise up instantly, and they feel fear or anger or sadness or whatever. Something blasts into your awareness of this emotion. Your thoughts immediately start to pick that up and say, it shouldn't be, it should be this, it should be that. I have all these preparations. The maelstrom of confusion rises almost certainly without any action on your part. Something happens. Emotions tear up into your awareness, thoughts start to spin. But they are all peripheral to one thing, which is the actual moment of now. And what Margaret is saying is you, the being, have that moment where you say, I choose. You can choose to entertain the emotions. You can choose to entertain the thoughts. You can choose to be swept up into the maelstrom, which sounds like you're not choosing. You say, well, I'm just being taken away. It's everything's around me. It's all my whole life is shattered. Everything is going wrong. You choose to follow those paths. If you choose peace, you literally say, no. Yes, all this is happening. I choose peace. I choose to accept what is, the isness of now, the very moment of what's happening to me right now, and realize that I have two things. I can choose only what I will feel about it, in the sense of accepting it, my choice of how I will be within it, and then the next thing you can say, what will I do about it next? And those things which you can say in 10 or so words happen in that exact moment. Something happens to you, whatever it is. All these emotions, all these thoughts will try to rise up and take you into the maelstrom of reaction, the maelstrom of storytelling, the maelstrom of why this and why not that, and this one deserves it and I don't, all those things, but instead you choose. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's drama. You're choosing not to take a step into the drama that's being presented to you.
Right.
You decide as the main character whether or not to follow the script that was handed to you or make it an original moment.
Well, and interestingly enough, you say script, because the script is being handed to you by yourself, in the sense of all those ego cells, all those personas, who want you to follow it, plug all things into the story, look for control, look for assurances, look for anything, anything to take this moment away, all the regrets, whatever.
When you say yourself, do you mean your ego is handing it to you, or is it the larger society, or...
well, back up. So if something happens, reality intrudes upon the moment of now.
Yeah.
Right, something happens. If you are unconscious or ego-bound, the script will be instantly written and handed to you, and all your egoic illusions will run around in reaction and in confusion and in suffering and all the things that come with that. And they'll say, nothing is peaceful, I'm not happy, this moment is not for me, I want to be anywhere else but here. And you will suffer. You will not be at peace. And you'll say, the peace is the furthest thing from me. I'll never be peaceful again. My life will be horrible to the end of time. Okay, this reaction is what, unfortunately, most people in the world go into when something happens, because that's the egoic, that's the typical. If you've come to the end of yourself, if you've followed that to its end and realized that none of it gets you out of the situation, that none of it actually helps you to find true peace, you wake up a little bit. You realize that you can choose only one thing, which is whether you will accept and what you will feel about it. That's it. And in doing that, you cut off all those confusions, all the scripts, everything else, and you have one thing left, you, the actual being that is you, and the ability to choose peace and to channel joy. And it sounds just incredible, but it just happens in that way.
Well, the being state, you step into a being state.
Right. You become aware of your being in that moment of now and realize that you shouldn't have ever expected to control the universe. The universe is not to be controlled. You shouldn't have, your ego told you all these illusions and made up all these stories about what you could do and how you could ensure that nothing bad would ever happen to you. No. Nor can you control the most wonderful thing in ever that will happen to you. The moment of now is yours, always. The peace of the moment of now is
Available
and instantly accessible. And the joy that you will find in accepting the moment of now just comes in. And then Margaret said something very, very important earlier. And then you literally, in that moment, in the peace, with that joy, are connected to grace and what needs to be, what needs to happen, the actual thing that really needs to happen, not all the stories and all the, all the running around in confusion, none of that, but what needs to actually happen, what role you are supposed to play because you're exactly in the right place at the right time for that exact moment. You're there because you're supposed to be there, will come through. And you'll know what you have to do. In peace, you will receive the assurances that your next action, performed in consciousness and peace, is exactly right. Yeah. And it's not right in the sense of I think this is right and you think it's wrong. It's exactly what needs to be for you at that moment.
Well, the question I would ask is that when you are in that internal state of confusion from whatever event has happened in your life, you sit there and you go, how? All right, how, for instance, after we lost our child, the pain was so bad that I remember sitting there saying to myself, how is it possible that my heart is still beating? My heart is so broken right now. It should stop. It shouldn't function. And in that moment, you touch into that consciousness that's there, as the heart is still beating. Yes, this feels awful. There's no words for what you're feeling right now. But you still are. You are here. And you sit in the midst of all that, and you feel the pain, but you look out and you see the vastness of life around you. How many times have you heard people say, oh, this is awful, that's what happens, but the sun still rises in the morning and shines. Life goes on. And this is the big kick in terms of, you know what? There's something greater than me out there, because if it was me, this whole world should have just gone cold. And when you realize in that moment something so much greater is out there, that life continues. You know that life continues past death. It continues past endings. And what are endings? A man-made construct. Endings should only just be markers, signposts of in the midst of the flow that life is. It's not an absolute end, which is what we have a tendency to believe. But when you see life continuing, the phrase that pops into my head is, it's again from the Bible. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. when you understand that life continues, even though everything else seems not to, that's your first step into wisdom.
Right. If you bring it, because Margaret packs a lot of stuff into. So the falseness of the egoic judgment of, as you just said, when something happens and the ego wants to say this is the end, all life must cease.
It feels like it.
The dark, because to the ego it is in essence its end. But it wants to. Again, it's another futile expression of control. That the ego says, well, this was so bad, it's the worst thing that ever happened, everything should stop. But yet life goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And the most precious thing about being in the moment of now is that it will only be a moment. It really is the most precious moment in the world where everything happens. The most precious moment of your life where everything happens is right now. Anything that happens right now is. Yet the next moment of now is unknown. And the power of that is that in being in the moment of now and being exactly where you're supposed to be and realizing it, you understand that the egoic judgment is so limited. Margaret just said it. The ego wants to put boundaries, endings, beginnings, boxes. Why? Because it can't deal with true reality. The ego is unable to deal with actual reality. You're being you, the greater you, the greater I, not the I of ego, but the greater I, the being which is an eternal incarnation of Source within the universe, in flesh. As that, you are not only indestructible, but you live in the infinite now. The ego wants to confuse you and distract you and limit you and put every bit of you into little boxes that it can mind and take energy from. But when it is swept away by true reality, guess what? You don't end. You, the actual being, remains. When all egoic constructs are gone, what happens? Do you die? Do you vanish? Do you cease to exist? No. You're there. You're there under all circumstances. Your existence, the I which is you, the being which is an emanation of Source incarnate in the world, exists regardless of circumstance. Nothing in the universe can take you away. You can take all the egoic things away. It can make the ego feel as though it has absolutely no control, but the being remains. It's greater than. It holds all those egoic constructs, all those illusions, all the little boxes. Sweep them all away. The being is still there. So the indestructible portion of you, the part of you that exists without ego, without any machinations, whatever, constructs, any sort of artificial or illusion, that portion of you remains.
Well, the acknowledging that you have thought constructs as well as emotions and emotional constructs, when you realize that your ego is what has put this together, and it has nothing to do with the foundation of who you are. It's kind of one of the reasons, I think, why we have so many screens around. You realize that there's stuff on the screen, but it's you who have to watch what's on the screen. You are the observer. You are the awareness taking in the image of the screen. And there is your choice. Do you take in that image of the screen, or you decide to find something else? This is an example, a microcosm of how you actually function in your life. It's a screenshot after screenshot after screenshot, and you're the one that clicks it to make the screenshot. Do you take that in, or don't you?
And having in other words, the choice, the ego says you have no choice. Right? The ego says, here's the image,
well,
be it.
If this is who you are, because what it does is identifies itself with your observer state, and then tries to convince you that all these stipulations and rules that the ego has come up with, in other words, well, this is who I am, so we have to do it this way. Instead of being in that being state in the moment, how am I actually observing this? How am I feeling? How am I thinking? Understanding that these are all inputs that you, as the observer, can process. And if it turns out, well, do I want to entertain that? There's a phrase.
Right.
Do I want to entertain that thought? Do I want to entertain that emotion? Do I want to entertain that relationship?
Right.
You have the ability to choose. And if you agree with those stipulations of, well, this is who I am, so this is what we got to do, then you've given over that ability to choose to those stipulations. You always have control.
And in that control is where peace lies.
Exactly. When you realize that you choose, and you don't have to choose the way other things are telling you should be. You can choose otherwise and see what happens.
Well, I mean, okay, so let's go back to the beginning of the premise, because we're kind of winding around here. But so what the ego would tell you is you have no choice, that this is what's happening, that all these preparations didn't work, and all. So it does all these things. You didn't have enough money, you didn't have enough power, you didn't have enough preparations, all these things. It runs you off unconsciously into suffering, unconsciously into this maelstrom. What it's taking away from you, or what it's trying to hide from you, is that you can choose at any moment, at every moment, and in all moments of your life, you can choose peace, and you can channel joy. And there is no circumstance which can separate you from the ability to choose those things in awareness, except you. By unconsciously running off into this suffering, you give away your choice. It's still there, whether you make it unconsciously or in awareness. Your ego can't control you. It only can give you a place, in essence, to suffer in. But if you choose in awareness, you choose peace. No circumstance can take it away from you. It's always accessible. You can't find it in circumstance. You can't find it in anything that you can do, any cream, any powder, any drink, any preparation, any amount of power, nothing, none of it. None of it will give you peace. Not one little bit of thing. In fact, it may even actively detract from your peace.
Well, true peace, because you have expectations again of, well, if I do this, then I should be happy.
Right.
And maybe you're happy for a few minutes, and then suddenly it's empty again.
We should make that distinction too, because that's always the case. Happiness is not peace. Right. Happiness is not joy.
Right.
Happiness is an egoic box that you think you can fill up, and that somehow you'll go and take a drink from once in a while. I got my happy box.
Well, happiness is you've arranged your circumstances of your life to your satisfaction.
You think.
You think. Well, that's what the ego says. But joy is that internal state of being, which is much broader and constant. And life itself, when you embrace life itself with all its ups and downs, and you ask for the strength that, let me endure this depth of sorrow,
or whatever,
or the heights of ecstasy to endure. Because when you go to either extreme, you must endure. There is no, in between.
Right? But no circumstance can separate you from it.
Right. And realizing that you're more than your circumstances, much more. You choose. And to embrace life in all its glory and honor. This is when, through freedom, you discover the true inner freedom.
And peace.
Mm-hmm.
And true inner peace. And I think right now the peace of the end of the show is coming upon us.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.